Hello, Novella Benedetti is my name. I'm your English coach, and today we're going to have a free grammar lesson, and we're going to speak about relative clauses. Before we start, a quick introduction. If you find it a bit difficult to follow me, maybe I speak too fast or whatever, you can either use the automatic YouTube subtitles or you can refer to my blog www.novellabenedetti.it. On my blog you can find the same explanation also written in Italian. So in case you don't understand or in case you prefer to make sure you actually understood everything, please refer to my blog. If you're watching this video from my blog, hello, thank you for following me. And yes, let's start. Just one piece of information more. On my blog, you can also subscribe to Resfab. Resfab is my monthly newsletter. I send it every Friday, every first Friday of the month, and I share with you some tips regarding English, of course, information about courses, discounts, early bird offers, as well as a review of the material that I published for free online in order to support your learning. Having said this, let's move on. Today we're going to take a look at relative clauses. When we speak about relative clauses, we have defining relative clauses and non-defining relative clauses. So that's what we're going to be dealing with. And of course, with a number of examples. If you happen to have any questions, feel free to write them down. Feel free to ask them, send me an email, write me a comment, whatever works for you. I try to reply. I do my best to reply to everybody, okay? And those classes especially are part of a series to support your learning and help you moving from level B1 into B2, okay? Good. So, relative clauses. Relative clauses are, maybe I can give you an example so that you understand what I'm speaking about, because sometimes grammar categories are not so easy to remember. For example, if I say Mary is the woman who or that works with me. Who or that works with me, that's a relative clause, okay? That's the first piece of information that you need to know in order to understand today's topic. As I mentioned at the beginning, we have relative clauses that are defining and relative clauses that are non-defining, okay? Defining relative clauses provide an essential message. The message that is the main message of the sentence, so they must be said. While non-defining relative clauses, on the other hand, they add information, but they are not essential, so they can be left out, and the meaning of the sentence would still be there, okay? Let me give you two examples before I dig deeper into the two kinds of relative clauses. The first example I gave you, Mary is the woman who or that works with me, is an example of defining relative clause. Because if I take out who or that works with me, you have no idea about my message, about what I wanted to say, because mainly what I'm saying, Julia is the woman. The woman what? Okay? So that's the defining. The non-defining is normally placed between two commas, and it's something like the tree which I saw yesterday was beautiful. So which I saw yesterday is a piece of information that adds elements, but it's not essential. Okay, if I leave this part out, nothing would happen. You would still understand the main message I want to come across. So this is a non-defining relative clause. So you have the two examples. Julia is the woman, or Mary is the woman who works with me. The tree that I saw yesterday was beautiful. Good. Defining, non-defining. Let's start with defining. Defining relative clause use a number of words, and namely who for people, which for objects, where for places, whose to express when something or somebody belongs to something, somebody else, and that. Okay, let me give you some example to make it clear. This is a book that helps, that teaches you, or which teaches you how to meditate. This is the book that teaches you how to meditate, or which teaches you how to meditate. Trento is the city where I was born. Place. Frank is the guy whose brother is playing soccer. Whose brother? Il di cui fratello, letteralmente. Okay? Most of the time you can replace who, which with that. Okay? However, please be aware that every time you do that, tends to be perceived slightly more colloquial. Okay? So if you are in a very formal context, please try to use who, which, where, and so on. Okay? Another element that can be interesting for you is that sometimes in these kind of clauses, are composed by two. Is a sentence composed by two clauses. So this is the woman that works with me. In this case, the subject is the same. When the subject is different, however, you can omit, you can avoid using who or that. For example, she's the girl I met on the bus. She's the girl I met on the bus. It is not a mistake, however, to say she's the girl that I met on the bus. This is the girl whom I met on the bus. It's totally fine, but you can also omit it. You will find it if you start reading in writing. They tend to comprise and use less is more, as they say, so you find these constructions quite a lot. Good, so those are the defining relative clauses. Non-defining relative clauses, first thing you need to know is that you can only use which, who, where, and whose. You cannot use that. Okay? As I mentioned before, they come between commas, and they add unimportant or non-influential pieces of information to the speech, really. This painting, which was painted in 1850, is worth millions of dollars. Okay, which was painted in 1850. Again, piece of information that's not essential for our speech. You can leave it out. Trento, where my sister was born, is a small city. Main information, Trento is a small city. Added information, where my sister was born. My neighbor, whose dog barked all the night, is on holiday. Okay, my neighbor whose dog barked all the night is on holiday. A sentence, an example with who. Last week I visited my grandma, who's nearly 100 years old. Who's nearly 100 years old. In these cases, you cannot, I repeat, you cannot leave out who, which, where, and whose. Okay, they must come in the sentence. And as I said before, you cannot use that. Okay? That's it. Congratulations for following all the class. To sum up, today we took a look to relative clauses, defining and undefining relative clauses. Defining relative clauses, for example, Mary is the woman who works with me. Add important and essential information to my speech. While non-defining relative clauses, for example, last week I visited, my aunt who is 90 years old was visited by a doctor last week who is 90 years old, non-defining relative clause. In both cases, to express, to introduce these clauses, you can use words such as who, which, where, and whose. Okay? Who with person, where with places, whose to express belonging to something or somebody, and where to express the place. In the case of defining relative clause, you can also replace them with that, although that is a slightly more colloquial use. That's it for our lesson today. As I mentioned before, feel free to write me if you have any questions at all, or drop a comment, or whatever works best for you. I will be posting more lessons, so keep following me, register to my website and my monthly newsletter, Resfab. And of course, as I mentioned at the beginning, if you are not sure you understood everything, please refer to my blog. Have a lovely day.